The aftermath of war in the distant corners of the world. Wars such as that in Korea, which left in its wake an army of prisoners still fanatical, still dedicated in their ignorance and hate. Fields deserted, roads crowded with refugees, old and young. The all too familiar picture of suffering and human tragedy. This is a campaign which has been aimed at the weak links of democracy, as in Malaya, by an elusive enemy, invisible and deadly. We had little to go on but uncertain information, and that too little and often too late. The same pattern of events took me to Indochina with the armies of France. Here was the same turmoil and the same human upheaval. But this is not history. This is a story which is not yet finished. The same enemy prepares, only the points of attack change. Here in the mountains between India and China, British-trained Indian officers and their troops remain watchful. The signs are clear for those to read who can, or who will. For in this remote land, Red China has already begun to claim the passes. They have begun to move in many disguises, without arousing opposition from the mountain people, isolated and unaware of their part in a vast struggle. Over the age-old caravan routes have come a small army of Chinese technicians, and the old tracks are being turned into roads, roads which could be used for commerce, or could be used for war, for they lead through the mountains from communist China to the unprotected plains of India. To find the true story behind a mass of conflicting rumors, I made the journey to this remote frontier.
Report from the woman Dr. Bahanda to her department. Cause of deaths in the suspected epidemic in the Zhangxi area not yet diagnosed.
Here is something a little different. A request for the following information to be conveyed to the appropriate authorities. The Chinese laborers who are passing through the Zhangxi lamasery are thought to be army personnel.
Information about the movement of Chinese troops is punishable by death.
So when we occupy the lamasery, it might be our regrettable duty to have this lady shot.
The American Michael Strait. What must happen to him?
It is true that an American observer in the Zhangxi Valley at this particular time would be inconvenient. But Mr. Strait is a man of some standing and fame, even in our own country.
Is it not suspicious that he should be in this part of the world?
Captain Chu, you must give your superiors more credit. Of course we have checked up on Mr. Strait. His credentials will all be in order, as you will no doubt find out in a short time.
Good.
But he will present us with a problem. He is a man of independence and integrity, in spite of his Western education. In fact, his very independence may be a great obstacle to us, but he is not to be disposed of lightly. Like this fellow here. Bury him, Captain Chu. Remove all traces of this incident.
Hey, you!
They don't like you doing that.
I got that impression.
They think you're an American spy. I hope you're not.
Nothing so melodramatic.
Good.
Why the interest?
Because anything could happen to you here. You're a long way from home.
Mr. Strait, I believe. My name is Chang. I have heard of your presence here. You must forgive him, Mr. Strait. He is a peasant. Such people are superstitious about things like cameras.
And Americans?
Is it surprising in this part of the world?
For your information, Mr. Chang, I'm here on a newspaper assignment to report conditions on the frontier.
It is said that the camera cannot lie, but it can also distort the truth. Do you know what work we are doing here?
Building a road.
That is correct.
Why are the Chinese building a road through country which is Indian?
A road through this pass will open a new trade route between China and India. With trade goes friendship and peace.
A road through this pass could also carry materials for war.
I hope you will avoid giving that impression in your report, Mr. Strait.
And suppose I'm not able to avoid it?
Endeavor to do so, my dear sir. Let me remind you that from where we stand, the nearest Indian military station is 21 days' march away, through mountainous country in which a remarkable variety of accidents could occur.
You're quite right. This road is not meant for peace.
But this is India. Why don't your people try to stop them?
That man has just told you the reason. We're a long way from civilization. Our government pretends that nothing is happening here, in the hope that everything will be all right in the end. But they're wrong.
I sent for you, Mr. Strait, because I'm concerned for your welfare.
You're very kind.
Please. You came with a letter of recommendation from the government of Delhi, and it has given us great pleasure to offer you hospitality at our lamasery.
And now you want to withdraw it?
By no means. You must be aware that the lamas, and particularly myself, find your presence congenial.
Thank you.
But a situation is arising which could be embarrassing to us and might eventually prove disagreeable to you. Do you follow my thought?
Not quite.
I refer to our Chinese friends who pass from time to time through the village. I feel they would regard it as an act of courtesy if you did not notice them.
I see. Just pretend they don't exist.
It would be less provocative. They are inclined to be a little sensitive.
And well, they should be. They're on the Indian side of the frontier, and they're obviously making preparations for some kind of military action.
But they are only building a road.
Yes. So I've been told.
Building a road is not necessarily a prelude to aggression.
I can appreciate your point of view, sir, but it's my duty to report the situation as I see it.
At least let me beg you to be discreet, for your own sake, and since you are our guest, for ours.
Well, I certainly wouldn't want to embarrass my hosts, and I have a very healthy regard for my own safety, but don't you think... The Dalai Lama's just been kind enough to give me a bit of his time.
Even here, where life appears to be somewhat leisurely, time is precious. Fortunately, a gift to a friend is never lost.
He seems rather concerned that I've been photographing Chinese soldiers.
Soldiers?
They aren't soldiers?
They are engaged in a work of peace. For the moment, it is best that we should accept their presence with equanimity.
You yourself are Chinese, I believe.
The Lamas here are of many nationalities, Mr. Strait.
Do you believe that this road is simply a trade road over the old caravan route?
We are told so.
It could also be a threat to peace, a weapon aimed at the heart of India.
Peace and war are matters for the politicians. The government has taken no action. It suggests they are not alarmed.
Or maybe they just don't know about it yet. You're rather remote here.
One should keep that in mind, Mr. Strait.
A lady just spoke to me in the marketplace. She doesn't seem to belong to this village. Would you know her?
Perhaps you refer to Dr. Bahanda.
Perhaps. Just who is she?
The government sent her to investigate what may be the start of an epidemic. Several deaths have already occurred. She has set up a clinic in the village. No doubt you will find her there.
May I come in?
Please. Sit down, please. I've been expecting you.
Have you?
You and I seem to be the only people to realize what's happening in this part of the world.
Well, the Chinese are building a road. That seems to be the major point of interest.
Do they need machine guns to make a road?
Guns? Is that what they're carrying in those carts?
Of course.
Have you seen them?
I've been here 6 weeks and have prevented a few people from dying, so they talk to me.
No one seems to be very interested in doing anything.
The Lamas tell them everything will be all right. If not in this world, in the next. In the face of danger, sit still and do nothing. And perhaps no one will notice you. It's the philosophy which has held back progress in my country for too long.
And what are you doing, Doctor?
I've tried to send information back with routine reports. I don't suppose anyone will pay attention. Too many of our people still think it better to talk about things than to do them.
I take it you were sent here by the government.
Yes?
Well, what about this epidemic? Do you think you can do anything about it?
There is no epidemic. It was a form of food poisoning. It won't give any more trouble.
I see. Well, that's very interesting. Does anyone else know that?
Not yet. Why?
I think it might be wise if you kept that to yourself for a while.
Army is here. Geldy, yo! Havildar. See the men fed and made comfortable. There is a government doctor in this place. I'll get him to look at the wounded. I am Major Hussain, Indian Army.
Indian Army.
We were expecting the Chinese. Believe me, we're glad to see you, Major.
Are you the doctor?
Fortunately for the patients, no. My name is Strait. This is Dr. Bahanda.
Does this mean that something's being done at last? I tried to get news through about what was happening.
You were successful. I have been sent with a force to occupy the village and the lamassery of Lansing. I have come on ahead with an advance party of 4 men to see what was going on.
Where are the rest of your men?
10 days' march away. They had to strip down their jeeps and manhandle them across the ravines.
Then they'll be too late.
Why?
There are more Chinese further down the valley. They'll be here tomorrow.
Then they will be too late. I am here today.
With 4 men.
What about it? Now, look, here. Now, here, the lamassery of Lansing. Up here, mountains. Here, more mountains. Impossible terrain. The only practical route for troops up or down this valley is along the caravan trail. And whoever holds Lansing can stop them.
But you can't hold it with 5 men, Major. Not even 6 if you want to count me.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But it is my duty to prevent the lamassery from falling into the hands of the Chinese.
And getting yourself killed? Because that's exactly what will happen.
Possibly. But I'm a professional soldier, and it is part of my engagement to die if necessary. I'm also an Indian, and I shall be happy to die for India. And I'll accept any help I'm offered without arguing. These villagers are hill men. They should be good fighters.
They won't fight at all.
Why not?
They live too long in the shadow of the lamassery.
I shall persuade them.
I doubt it.
There's only one man that can help you, and I doubt if he will.
The Lambada? The head man of the village?
No, the High Lama.
The High Lama? Good. Let us go to see him. Please try to understand my position. I need 10 days in which to get my main force deployed in this valley. For 10 days, I must prevent the Chinese from occupying this village. Will you help me?
I regret no.
Don't you understand? 10 days, it may not seem important to you, but there is a world outside this valley with 2,000 million people in it. And quite a few of them think they're a little too close to the infinite as it is. A small blow-up in this valley could send them the rest of the way. I am here to stop it, to keep peace. Don't you understand? He's asleep.
He has a habit of doing that.
You heard our conversation?
Yes.
Apart from the theological considerations, which are quite clear, we must bear in mind that the Indian troops are 10 days' march away, while the Chinese are here, in the village.
It is a point of some importance.
When you meet a tiger on a narrow path, treat it with courtesy. If it then attacks you, the fault is not yours.
The village headman, Major Saab.
Peace be with you, Hazur, and with you, Saab.
I want 50 men of this village to volunteer for service with me for 10 days.
For what purpose, Hazur?
I intend to hold this village against possible attack.
It will be difficult to find volunteers here, Hazur.
Why?
We are men of peace. Fighting is foreign to us. We live under the protection of the lamassery, and the lamas teach us that it is forbidden to kill.
I hope they do not also forbid you to die, Lambadar. Some of you are likely to do so within the next 48 hours.
Why should men die for something that does not concern them, Saab?
That's a good question. There is no answer. But doesn't this concern you?
The argument is between China and India.
But this is part of India.
The rest of India is very far away, Saab. You know that. You had need of pack animals, porters, and guides to get here.
Would you prefer to be a part of China? The rest of China's a long way, too.
It makes no difference to us as long as they let us live in peace.
Man's been around a long time. He's learned to do a lot of things, but he's never learned to do that.
It's no use. Not one of them will lift a finger. I've begged them. I've argued with them. I can do nothing with them.
And it's difficult to understand, I suppose, because I am a soldier.
It's because you know the world outside. But these people in the Lamasery, they have a chronic mental twist in the neck from looking back over their shoulders at the past. It's superstition, the worship of non-action, of doing nothing.
Well, I've got to do something. I'll take my men down the valley and set up sniping posts.
I hate war and killing. I hate soldiers. But I find it difficult to hate a soldier like you.
The Chinese, they're here already. I must go.
No, wait. They mustn't find you here.
In the confusion following the arrival of my troops, one or two of your villagers lost their lives. It is to be regretted.
Not necessarily. Their lives may not have been altogether satisfactory. They may now have entered into a period of greater contentment.
You console me.
Mr. Strait, Colonel Chang has expressed a desire to meet you.
Colonel Chang and I've met.
But too briefly, Mr. Strait. We have much to talk about.
Like Major Hossein?
Ah, yes, Major Hussein. He shot one of my soldiers.
Under the circumstances.
Under the circumstances, I would have done the same thing. I, too, am a professional soldier. I expect discipline and good behavior from my troops. Therefore, I regard Major Hussein merely as an officer prisoner. And since there is no possibility of escape, he's on parole.
Good. And Dr. Bahanda?
Unfortunately, there seems some possibility that she may have been giving information about our troop movements. If this is confirmed, she will, of course, be shot.
Until then?
Again, there is no possibility of escape, so she is free to continue her work.
Fair enough. Now, what about me?
You, my dear sir, are a distinguished national of a country for which I have the most profound admiration. I beg you to regard yourself as my honored guest.
I'm obliged to you.
At the same time, I must be practical. I can offer you no assistance to leave here. You might, quite unintentionally, of course, give a slightly incorrect picture of what is happening.
I might.
But naturally, you are free to leave if you wish.
What, with no guides or porters over 300 miles of the Himalaya?
I appreciate that this presents a formidable obstacle, Mr. Strait. So I hope it will persuade you to give me the pleasure of your continued company.
No, thank you. I don't think I feel like a cup of tea right now. Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning. Please excuse me. Sit down.
Thank you. Yeah, it looks like I was right. It is 300 miles.
From where to where?
From here to anywhere.
Oh, I expect it is. If you count the vertical distance up and down the mountains, it would be a lot more.
What are the dots for?
Villages where there have been cases of food poisoning.
What about the numbers on the dots?
Deaths.
Obviously, you were pinpointing the center of trouble when you still thought it was typhus, huh?
Yes, the pattern looked much like the early stage of an outbreak of typhus.
But you say it isn't. Could you be mistaken?
No, I couldn't. I've gone into this with great care.
Too bad. After all, you wouldn't have to go back on your diagnosis. You haven't made it known yet.
You mean If I allow it to become known that we can expect a full-scale epidemic of typhus to break out...
Exactly.
You are clever, Mr. Strait. I'm so glad you happened to be here. I brought a live culture of the bacillus with me in case I required it. I'm afraid it won't be a very good slide. It really takes some time to stain and prepare them properly. But I think this may be interesting.
Doctor? Colonel?
To observe the industry of others is always very agreeable, so I interrupt with much regret.
Who are you?
I'm Colonel Chang. We have met, I think.
So we have, but that was before you joined the army.
The authorities in the Lamasery have told me of the purpose of your work here, so it is important to have discussion with you.
Why?
Because this area is now under my command, and your reports will be addressed to me.
In that case, you've come at the right moment.
Explain, please.
Please look at this. Some months ago, a caravan passed through this valley. They brought with them some infection. 3 people died in this village, 4 here, 3 in this.
There was some connection, you think?
Certainly. I was sent here to investigate, and if possible, prevent it from spreading.
And the result of your work?
I've isolated what appears to be the causative organism. There it is. I don't know if you're familiar with elementary bacteriology. If you are, you'll recognize what you're looking at.
I am ignorant in these matters, but the picture is charming.
You think so? It's a variation of the Rickettsia tsutsugamushi organism. It appears we have here the first cases of a particularly malignant type of typhus, which occurs from time to time in this part of the world.
Perhaps I was mistaken. It may not be so charming after all.
What will happen is this. We may have another isolated case or 2, followed by a rapid and widespread outbreak throughout the Lansing Valley. There's not much I can do to prevent it. I haven't the facilities.
A disagreeable prospect. I have seen epidemics of typhus.
But not of this type, I think. You'll find it a little more alarming. With the better fed victims, your soldiers, for example, only half of the cases will die.
I am obliged to you for your information. In about a week, you think?
At the outside.
You have no doubt about this.
None whatever.
I have a small medical unit with my main force, but if you can do nothing, what can they do?
Nothing.
So it seems best that this problem should be left to your government, and that work on the Langsea Road should be postponed in the meantime.
You mean you're going to withdraw?
Temporarily.
On the whole, I don't blame you.
Thank you. It is not good for my men that I should be obliged to withdraw them in this manner. If my intelligence service had been more competent, I would have been warned of the dangers of an epidemic.
Unfortunately, Dr. Bahanda failed to report to the Lamasery on her researches.
But the possibility of an epidemic was known.
It seemed remote.
One mistake is permitted, my dear Lucien. A second mistake may prove fatal. I beg you to give this your careful consideration.
Of course, Colonel. And the Indian Major Hossein?
I leave him here. I do not expect many survivors from the epidemic you are about to endure.
To have worked. You are to be congratulated.
It was only my idea. Dr. Bahanda carried it through.
She is a brilliant woman. Now, perhaps this will put some heart into the villagers. It may even put some courage into the High Lama up there.
I doubt if it'll be as simple a thing as courage.
We can always find out. Come.
These times may lack tranquility, but they have the merit of giving me frequent opportunities to enjoy your company.
I can restore tranquility in a very short time.
How?
Give me leave to post 50 men of this village armed with rifles on the walls of the lamasery for a few days. In less than 10 days, I shall have 250 troops here.
But our visitors have already departed.
They may return.
Well, there seems little likelihood of that. Colonel Chang was most apprehensive about the epidemic.
There will be no epidemic. That was a trick.
A trick?
An intelligent move by Mr. Strait and Dr. Bahanda. If Colonel Chang should discover this.
He will no doubt be very annoyed.
Rest assured, sir, there are people other than the Chinese who are beginning to get very annoyed.
So it would appear, Liu, that the danger of an epidemic may not in fact exist.
It seems possible.
Let us hope Colonel Chang does not believe we played any part in the deception. In many ways, an epidemic would be preferable to his displeasure.
Why did Hussein have to tell him? It was very foolish.
Hussein's a soldier. He was only trying to persuade the old man to do the sensible thing from a soldier's point of view.
Unfortunately, it isn't the High Lama's point of view.
How many days before Hussein's troops are due to arrive?
8 or 9, I suppose. You really think somebody might tip off Chang?
Have you ever met a gentleman by the name of Liu Chen?
Captain Chu.
Information has reached Colonel Chang, which enables him to resume work on the Lancy Road.
What information?
That there is no truth in the rumor concerning a possible outbreak of typhus.
That is very comforting.
Also, that foreign troops are approaching the Lancy Valley over the high pass through the mountains.
There have been rumors of this in the marketplace.
Colonel Chang is therefore returning and will occupy the lamasery and the village to prevent them falling into enemy hands.
It is always agreeable to renew a friendship.
Colonel Chang has been grossly insulted. If the woman doctor and the American are not made available immediately, it will be his disagreeable duty to have 10 of the lamas shot, including yourself.
Tell Colonel Chang that every effort will be made to spare him anything so disagreeable. Liu, make arrangements for Mr. Strait and Dr. Bahanda to prolong their stay with us until the return of Colonel Chang.
So you were right. Liu, or somebody, has betrayed us.
Yes.
And the Chinese are coming back. They shoot me, of course, but that doesn't matter. It's my country. Unfortunately, they might make things unpleasant for you, too.
I'll manage.
You've heard about the Chinese coming back?
Yes.
Good. Then I won't waste time. At first light tomorrow morning, my Havildar will have 2 of Mr. Strait's horses outside the gateway.
Are you leaving here?
You and Mr. Strait are leaving.
Are you mad? Do you expect me to run away?
I expect you to take a message to the Subadar commanding my troops. He must know the position here.
One of your men can do that.
I have no men to spare.
Hussein's right. Your work is finished here. But I'm staying, Major. I've got a job to do. If I'm lucky, they won't touch me. It would be bad propaganda. But you're going to have to spare one of your men. The doctor will need a guide.
I am sorry, Mr. Strait. All my men are trained soldiers, and they will be more valuable to me than even your admirable self. You must be the guide. You will leave at first light.
We shall meet again, I think.
Perhaps. But go. Go, quickly.
No further, Mr. Strait. You and the doctor shall go back to Lancy now.
By whose order? Looks like we'll never know what it feels like to be a traitor.
कोई अंदर नहीं जाए, ठीक है? ठीक है?
Doctor?
I was giving myself an injection. It's wise in this part of the world. I hope you got yourself properly immunized before you came here.
Against practically everything. Can't afford to take chances when you travel around the world as much as I do.
Typhus?
Yep.
Good. I think I know how to keep Colonel Chung away from Lansing. Or at least make him leave it again very quickly when he comes.
Really? How?
Same as before, fear of an epidemic.
Well, I told you, I don't think you can fool him a second time.
I won't try to. It will be quite genuine.
What, a genuine case of typhus? You mean you found one?
I think so. Do you think Chang will remember what I told him?
Well, I'd say he has a good mind for detail.
Good. Then it should be easy.
Where is this case?
It hasn't developed yet.
I'm sorry, Doctor, but I think you're a little ahead of me.
I told you I brought some live culture of the typhus organism.
Yes?
That's all one needs.
Well, you mean to infect somebody? Well, you can't do a thing like that. You're a doctor.
I was thinking of myself, of course.
Well, that's impossible.
It might save many lives.
Maybe, but you can't ask me or Hussein to let you. Oh, no, that's out. Right out.
I thought you'd say that.
What was in that syringe? That was it, wasn't it? That's what you were doing. What can I do to help? What can I give you to counter it? I don't know much about this sort of thing, but...
Please don't. I'm frightened enough as it is. Will you help me when it becomes necessary?
Oh, but of course.
I'll tell you first what to expect, then how to protect yourself, then how to avoid it affecting others.
How long?
This is an unusual way of contracting it. I think it'll be very quick, but I can't be sure.
What do I look for when it does develop?
High fever, drowsiness, delirium, frustration, and in this case, death. बच्चे थे फिर क्या हुआ न मुझे दूर नहीं होता ना
Bring Mr. Strait and Dr. Bahanda to me. Give out. What is your business?
I have a message for the American and the woman doctor from Colonel Chang.
Tell it to me.
The message is for the American and the woman doctor.
Tell me your business and go quickly.
They are to go at once to Colonel Chang and the High Lama's apartments.
Tell Colonel Chang that Strait Saab will be with him presently. And that Dr. Bahanda is otherwise engaged. Now go, quickly. Jaldi jao!
Colonel Chang will hear of this.
क्या मुझे पानी था बहुत पानी था दो बच्चे थे
Strait Saab.
मुझे पानी दे दो पानी था बहुत पानी था दो बच्चे
You're invited to a tea party with the High Lama and his Chinese friend.
I'll go at once.
How is she?
Delirious. She doesn't even know me. She's burning up with fever. Keep an eye on her. I'll get back as soon as I can.
पानी था बहुत पानी था दो बच्चे थे फिर क्या हुआ न मुझे दूर नहीं होता ना
You wanted to see me?
And Dr. Bahanda, where is she?
Dying.
Dying?
Of typhus.
You are lying, Mr. Strait. It will not help.
Did you say typhus?
Of a particularly virulent kind. She diagnosed it herself before she became delirious.
Where is she?
In her clinic.
The truth can easily be determined, Mr. Strait. This time I have a doctor with me. Come.
If this in fact be true, it seems possible that we may once more be left in peace.
If it is true.
This person is correct. The disease is typhus of the group Rickettsia tsutsugamushi.
Indeed. I'll report this to Colonel Chang. The doctor says there is no doubt. It is typhus, very bad.
Find the Lama Lu Chen. This is his second mistake. As a source of information, he is no longer reliable. Shoot him. Then withdraw your troops and follow me.
Jaldi!
She's very weak. I don't think she can last much longer.
My medical officer is a very good fellow. Perhaps he'll be able to do something.
How many days before your men get here?
2, perhaps.
That'll be too late. There isn't a slight chance that...
I don't think so. Good boy, my Subadar, eh? 2 days ahead of schedule, not bad, eh, Sergeant? My compliments to the Subadar. Tell him to send the medical officer ahead to report to me immediately at the clinic.
The fever is gone. The patient will live, thanks to her own courage.
Marcia.
Michael.
Pugawalla, Jolly, Jolly! Looks like she's beaten it.